When the fire catches, a Yaretzi Martinez nightmare fuel fic. The fire was live and animated, roaring with heat. Yaretzi Martinez sat on a log in front of it, watching the warm colors dance on the sticks in the cover of the night. 2 years ago, Robert Dobson had taken her and Verity Veras away from the fancy Meridian and into the forest on the edge of the border to hide from the authorities. Yada was overwhelmed with the care and love that both Bob and Beck showed to her when it was her who killed William. Okay, she didn't kill Will, but she almost did. He was severely injured, probably lying in hospital bed right now, bleeding puddles out of his invincible body. She, however, was on the radar for attempted murder. Okay, not on the radar, but she was a fugitive, which was just as bad. Beck was hunted for being an accomplice, which she wasn't, and digging around with a very much expired security clearance. Bob was being searched for helping them escape and hiding them, so they were all in a pickle. Will and his pedorros were probably cackling in the hospital cafeteria with their expired chocolate pudding and Will clutching his bleeding side, heaving and dying later because laughing was too much for his system, and also that was his karma. Yada's head hurt at the thought of the spiral of events. She was about to call for an Advil capsule, but Beck approached her first, taking a seat beside her on the log. "Hey, Jade," she greeted quietly. Ever since coming out here, Beck had been a little more quiet and reserved. Jade was aware she had depression prior to these events, but Bob had told her something that made it worse. Some Bryant or Brent dying, and that had been enough for her to stop talking for 2 weeks. Jade wanted to help her friend, but she didn't know how to if Beck wouldn't let her tell her split about anything. She got that her depression was her fault when she walked out of Becca's life to be in a protective quarantine that was mandatory. But she had to tell her because if she didn't, she'd only lose Jade more. But apparently, while she'd had the more sunny side of things at the agency, Beck had been traumatized and even had her mind wiped a couple times, and apparently that hadn't worked fully. Sure, she didn't have PTSD, but she took a bit to remember people, places, codes. Jade felt bad for her. It was her fault Beck got dragged into this mess. "Hi, Beck. Look, I'm really sorry I dragged you into this mess. You and Robert both. It's my fault." Jade apologized, squeezing Beck's hand. "Hey, Martinez, it ain't your fault. It's mine, actually. This war started long before I knew you, with other people. Will and his pedorros are just the bigger people's puppets. Like Will told you before he died, this is more than just a war. This is a war of galaxies, and they have more chance of winning than we do. So it isn't your fault. Maybe it isn't mine either. They've been planning to build this Death Star-type weapon for 2 decades already. We couldn't have done anything to stop it." Beck squeezed back, but Jade couldn't feel it. She couldn't even feel the fire, the cool autumn breeze, couldn't hear Beck calling her name, or an arriving Bob's shakes. All she could hear was Will laughing at her and taunting her in her brain. "See," he said. "I told you it was much bigger than a pathetic world war, Autumn. It's a war of galaxies, and you bet like hell I'm going to win it, my darling." A cold, patronizing feeling sunk into the unidentified Martinez's gut. As if mental Will could feel it, he probably could since he was a part of her. He laughed. "Oh, Autumn, you had the option of joining me, but you didn't take it. Now you too will be destroyed by my purple laser," he taunted. Then disappeared. Everything around her did, and she awoke in the dark tent. She could hear Rebecca Veras' steady, deep, sleeping breaths on the bed to her left, and outside, Robert Bob Dobson was on the phone. For the first time, Yaretzi Autumn Gabriela Martinez admitted she was afraid of everything around her. Mostly just William Pedorro and his purple laser.